Hi, Friday afternoon. Firstly, just to answer one question. What scale was that? 747, 144th. This is one of the Revell moldings, I'm pretty sure. Looks like Revell because it has fine panel lines. Can't remember the, could be, no, I can't remember. I'll dig out one of the Airfix ones and just compare that. But this one looks pretty finely molded. I'm pretty sure it's Revell. Okay, first let's get this out of the way. Okay, so slight change of plan. This became a tattoo test bed. Now this has also had acrylic floor wax over the tattoos because they have a slightly latex feel to them, which means when you put them on and you rub your finger over them, it's not smooth like it is now. And in fact, when you rub your finger over them, they would tend to start coming off. Now I just put one on there to judge how durable it is, and it actually went better onto skin. And if I rub my fingers over there, you can feel it's a little bit slightly rubbery, but it holds up actually very well. The reason that one started coming off is because I've washed my hands about 3 times since. And as soon as you dry your hands and the warm water, that starts coming off. But now you will note that it is a very disintegration type of effect. And so that's what would happen on there if you mess around with that too much. So basically I did a first one that seemed to go on okay. I was happy with that. I did a second one, which I think was that one. Now I must point out that these decals are all meant for a light colored background, like whitish to they're quite visible enough on skin, but they don't have any white present in the tattoos. So for instance, that which looked like a whole nice white eagle head doesn't, it's just the outline. So there's no white on any of these, and they really look best. I mean, here and there there's a couple that can look okay, but so what you will see is the fineness. There's some very fine detail in there, which came out pretty well. I'm sort of happy with that one. Went to the next one, not so great. And that's sort of what I wanted to get my head around. How successful is it to really get these things on? Then I went for one which is right in the middle of quite a change of contour, which would be very tricky for a decal, no problem. and then I put on another one, and that one was somewhat immediately disintegrating. So it appears that what happens is it's a sort of a latex, and I'm not clued up on these things. I mean, I'm just trying them out. It's a bit of a latex surface, but it's not necessarily a continuous surface. So for instance, don't think of these necessarily as one continuous carrier film. It doesn't appear to work like that. It's more like something that can disintegrate, because obviously with your skin movement it completely handles that, and the only way it could do that is if it sort of almost just takes form around all of your wrinkles. But you need to get it on flat and quickly, and don't mess with it, don't touch it. There's nothing to do. You put it down, you get the backing off, and that's that. It isn't as smooth as a decal surface wise. It appears to have, and let's see if I can. Okay, so that reflection hopefully shows you that there's a bit of roughness, and that's after more floor wax. Did the whole wing again in the acrylic gloss. this one as well. I can see it very clearly here. This one I'm talking about. There's tons of little mini ridges, and that makes it, it's okay, it's usable, but it's not a decal. So yes, I will be using a couple here and there. If they don't work out, they're easy enough to get off. Bit of warm water and soap them off. And if I go inside, that one will come off quite easily with warm water. So yeah, there's some that I can do on models. They're easy enough to get on, but they have their limitations. Would I recommend them? Not really. They're more for a sort of a mess around project, and what they would possibly be good for is billboards. If you're doing a little diorama and billboards and type, you know, sort of wall art type of stuff which doesn't have to be high quality, and in some cases you may actually want it to look deteriorated. Then that's very good, because you can put it on and deteriorate it very easily. Okay, that's tattoos out the way. I don't know which one this is, Airfix or not Airfix. It is, well, oh, maybe this is actually, maybe this is Matchbox then, because what I first thought was white plastic all over. It's not white plastic all over. I've just realized that the fuselage, and you can actually see that difference there. It's light gray plastic and white plastic, and there's only one company I know that does that, and that must make this a Matchbox, despite having all raised to detail. Is that correct? Is that then the Matchbox? Now that would fit with what I got, with the little mix of spares. So if that matches the Matchbox version, that flat's not a Mark 1. I don't know the marks very well. So it's probably a Matchbox then. I was going to say, I looked at my Mark 1 early box Airfix, and it certainly wasn't that. But I think we figured out it must be a Matchbox. So I've been sanding, and what I wanted to talk about a little bit was the preparation towards making a impressive final finish here. So this is not the same as doing this on a new kit, because you wouldn't have had well, to start with, you wouldn't have had a matte surface to deal with. So I'm trying to, and I'm not really able to achieve really getting into all of the little areas. So this is going to be, let's call it, for want of a better term, a top view model. A model that's best viewed from any of those angles, because underneath I can't really get to everything, and hence my sanding method, it's going to be a little bit obvious in some areas where it's not looking like what I intended. But top view, I think I have got a surface that's got enough remaining high detail so that on a final bit of sanding that white will come through. Now I need to point out that you've got green and you've got white present there. When you sand, you only want the white to come through. If I do silver, if I do a silver scheme and I sand, I'm going to get a slight bit of white coming through, and I don't really want green coming through. That'll sort of ruin it. If I do the black scheme, if I almost border on getting green, you hopefully won't even notice it. And then you're getting the white through. So it's going to be a very visible panel line effect if I do a black scheme and get the white coming through. But you do have these rather larger blobs of white which are going to come through as large blobs of white. They can be touched up afterwards, or I can try and remove them completely before the time. So it sort of goes about how much preparation do you do. Can't get the canopy off, so it really means that I'm trying to do as much preparation first for a second-rate minimal restoration. We're just trying to do an interesting color scheme and get decals on again. That's all. Not even interesting color scheme, interesting paint job, and see what detail we can work. So it looks like I'm up for canopy masking. There's always more sanding that you can do. I'm gonna, as I did say, I'm gonna sort of ignore that underside, just focus a bit more on this top side, but I don't want to, you know, turn it into anything major. So we're sort of getting there to the spray paint phase. So will I do black straight onto there? Do I need a primer coat? Considering that I want to bring through just the high points on sanding, but I don't want to get through to any flat white surface. I do need sort of a somewhat thickish paint layer, which means I can do a primer layer. What would my primer layer be? Possibly matte, no, not matte black, satin black, and then, or gloss black, no, satin black, and then a gloss black. Now that floor wax layer, if you put that on and then sand, it does protect very well, possibly a little bit too well. So it's almost better to sand before you've got that on, but you stand more risk of breaking through. I estimate I probably will break through into areas that I didn't want to break through, getting to the underlying plastic when actually all I want to do is just, so I have to be very careful, but it can make a very nice finish. And I'm probably best to mask this whole section off. We can retain all of that coloration, don't need to do black there. And I guess we can retain that coloration at the back there, so carefully cover that up. Oh, that's what I wanted to also say. Do I have one here? I don't know if I do. Because this was painted in quite a heavy matte, the one thing that's going to be really obvious when I paint this in a satin color or a gloss color next is any areas which I didn't hit, like all of that, they are going to immediately stand out. So as I've said, we're going to ignore some of them because you won't see them, but I like in little recesses on the upper surfaces, in there, this spine, I really need to make sure. And one of the ways to do that is you can take a scrubbing brush and go over there, and that'll knock off any remaining matte surface. Apart from the fact that you could just do a little bit more with the sanding, but you know, the brush gets right into the recesses quite nicely. So I'm sort of probably, I want to stop myself just, you know, sitting sanding and sanding and sanding and not just getting to the spraying part. So I might actually just mask the canopy and then spray. Primer coat, black primer coat. So what's the difference between just painting a black coat thickly and a black primer coat and then the final black coat? Well, I haven't decided whether I want to go full gloss directly. I also have that metallic black, that is an option as the primer coat. I'll go and look. I just want to keep it very dark so that when you're sanding your final, and what you get through to must still be as dark as possible. Okay, so that's that. Now, what I'm doing there then plays into the B1, which needs to then sort of get its next steps done. Now, just to remind you, the primer coat for the wings was done. and pencil markings for the camo scheme. So this is sort of a satin grey, and then I see I've hit a little bit of a matte green there. Oh, that's because that I don't have the color scheme with me, do I? Oh, I do. Okay, so what I had done there is chosen the green, done it the overall green, and then I need to mask and repaint the grey. And I haven't masked off, I haven't penciled in the camo scheme there, but I have rubbed it down with a cloth to get rid of any high matte surface. So that's quite satin at the moment. And but I haven't broken through the panel lines yet. That's the final stage, because these panel lines are actually very low, and I probably did a bit of pre-sanding. Oh well, judging by this fuselage, maybe I didn't, because these are, all of the panel lines are very, very fine. So right at the end, I would want to just give a very fine 1200 grit sandpapering. So those, because I had a little bit of leftover green, some green got done onto the wings. There's not a lot of decal there. We'll get to the decals. So that's the stage that I'm at, is penciling up and getting ready to mask and spray the colorations, and I do need a little bit of variation. So I will be introducing a little bit of variation, which just means mixing. When I spray a little bit of the green or the grey, that's a little bit of a lighter grey, but this is only a low-class artwork. I'll look online again just to try and get, I mean, it's probably fairly close to what I've got there, although this green is somewhat almost invisible against the grey. We want a little bit more definition between the two. When I'm spraying them, I'll mix slightly different shades of green and do slightly different areas. And then when I have all of that, then I can bring out all of this very nice panel line detail. Lots of spoilers and flaps and a lot of nice panel line detail. And we are at engine filling. I think the last I was at when I was touching this was actually gluing and just sanding down, but it's now to the point where I need to actually do the filler for both sides, full length of the engines. See those sort of turbine blades? Remember, that was tank wheels, was it? Yep, I think that was tank wheels that I put in there. Oh yes, and we had some interesting fun trying to get those exit vanes, which you won't quite see there. Ah yes, tail cone I have filled. So the important thing is that I need to complete the wings completely, because that amount of overlap where they go into the fuselage, I can't do anything about that afterwards. So the wings need to be completely done, sealed, decals on, everything completely sealed, put in position, do the fuselage, protect the wings by putting some paper over it and whatever, and then we can continue. would I do this separately? Now let's just look at that fit. Probably not. So once I've glued this together with the wings in, get that tail cone on, get that vertical stabilizer in. And if you also remember, then the challenge on this fuselage was to achieve a good gluing strategy. So you can ignore one side while you're busy with the other side, and this is a long side, so preferably we wanted this to be very well done, giving us this, the sort of secure and fixed position, and then we can focus on this. We must just make sure that we do that right, so that when we get to that we don't have any bad alignment. So I need to make sure of you know, are the pins absolutely reliable? Oh, and then we had this extra problem, which means that this area is the real problem. There is sort of okay, there's still okay, here's problem. And the problem is that it's very, very easy to get a step, which there is right now. So if I just glued it, I would have a step both sides in a different manner. See that there? So as you're sort of progressing up here, this done, getting that sort of done, getting that sort of done, so that that's sort of mildly secure. One can ponder doing the nose, but what you need to be able to do is to push and pull either the top or bottom surface so that you can get the alignment, and that's not the easiest thing, to be able to push and pull. One side first and check what pins we have there. We do have these pins right in this area, so possibly want to remove them. I mean, there's various ways to approach this. You can put a little bit of sheet plastic on the inside there to sort of force it to the other side, but you've got to be careful because the two plastic thicknesses are not the same on top and bottom surface. Which means that if you just put a little fillet to guide it and slot in, you're not necessarily going to get exactly what you wanted. So just to refresh your memory on where we were at with all of these closed up wheels in Bombay, it's not high quality. It was a fair bit of work to get this to what this is. This is all nice and flush. I don't want to sand that because I lose the surroundings panel line detail. That did get sanded an immense amount. You can see the matte surface compared to the surrounding plastic. That is, and it's not perfect. It's not perfect, but it is right on the underside, so I could have done that a little bit better. I can actually fix that, to be honest. I can break through the glue joint since I have a little bit of leeway there, and it looks like a very easy fix. So I could actually get that a little bit more level than I have got it. This door, that door looks very good. Those doors look pretty good over the contour, but a slight step from those doors to that door. But that's okay. I think all things considered, for the quality of this kit, what I've got with the closed up doors is quite fine. Oh yes, I had quite a bit of plastic removal. Well, I shouldn't say quite a bit. Some plastic removal there, and I need to actually check that the wings will fit in and swivel without grinding on the, so that profile there needs to really retain and allow for the wing movement very nicely. So a little bit of fuselage checking, a little bit of planning on how I'm actually going to deal with that, because I definitely don't want that. That would be one of the big disasters of this build, is if that main line running down the fuselage has ended me up with a step. And it won't be a constant step. It would be like as the undulation of the plastic makes it, you know, slowly enter into a step and then back out again. But you know, all things considered, the number of parts left is very minimal. Oh, let's look at the decals there. But before I do that, I just want to show you so they somewhere, I must just find those parts. There's the big button that glues in there that secures the wing. Very, very good securing mechanism, very strong to keep the wing in there. And then we had the connecting rod between the two. Well, this is in fact, it's not the worst if you get a little bit of scratch marks from the movement mechanism, because that possibly happened on the real aircraft as well, but you don't want to go asking for it. So you just want to make sure that your surface, that little ridge there, doesn't have any unnecessary high points. So I must actually just go over that with a slight bit of sanding. Well, I need to clean off, because that's a glue joint there anyway, so I have to clean off the paint from the glue joint. Just to remind you about the cockpit. Minimal. Okay, so we've got two buttons to get the wings in. We've got the cross member, we've got the windscreen. And I think that's all. Parts that I haven't brought out here. And our mechanism for the horizontal stabilizers was, you know, you'd have to go back and watch the videos on that. That was quite a mission, getting the steel rod in between there. I haven't connected this up for a while. I remember one of them was a bit tight and one was quite good. Can't remember which way around. You know, that's an obvious, very weak point, and that'll go right on at the end, so the horizontal stabilizers will get sprayed independently, but as you can see, they can go on, and we've got quite a secure little joint. I mean, obviously it's only, what, 1/2 mil steel. It's a nice little tight fit. And when it's finished, it possibly doesn't even need glue. In fact, I'd say it probably doesn't need glue at all. That was, looks like more, could be up to a 1 mil steel. That's right on the inside of that pin there. That was quite a job, and oh, and I had that whole mechanism there. I had that whole mechanism that I built in. You'd have to go and watch that video again. So if you want to go and see what I did with the B1 tail, because that's got that mechanism in so that you can move the horizontal stabilizers and they'll push back with a sort of a springiness. So they'll keep it in the level position, and yet you actually do have a little bit of, that was just sort of a bit of a trial for the engineering aspect of it. So I've got filling, wings ready for painting, wings ready for getting camo scheme right. What method will I use? Will I use the blue tack method? Will I use a tape method? This is closer to a solid edge versus a feathered edge, but what you don't want to get is partially feathered and partially perfectly level, because your method of delineating sometimes lifted up a bit above the surface, or masking fluid. Possibly masking fluid might be the solution in this case. So I must go and choose my color range. I'll go and look at some pictures online again and just choose, you know, not looking at that for my color range. And this is sort of an initial guideline, but it's not to say that'll be the final coloration choices. Filling and sanding and filling and sanding and filling and sanding, because those are not small joints to fill. They're not deep and annoying. Oh, and I've got the nozzles. The nozzles are somewhere. Did I already paint them? Can't remember. So we'll get that one back on track and sort of really practice that amount of sanding on this one's finish, so that when I do it on the B1, I'm really not messing up. The B1 has got a very nice, carefully raised set of panel lines. Can give you a very, very nice finish. Oh, I almost forgot to show you the decals again. So we've got the two B1 kits, and this one gets the that one? No. That is the other one, which is a rather simple set. So that's the other B1 bomber, which I'll do undercarriage down. But here's these decals. So there's that dog. got those long wing decals, which you can see on the picture. Well, obviously that's the one because I've got the instrument panel out of that. So quite a nice little set of decals actually. It's not as sparse as it looks on that artwork. There's, well, okay, there are two schemes, but still, you know, there's enough interesting little decals there. And that was another one. And I can't remember what exactly I was going to do. Oh, the other one was going to be the low visibility gray scheme, I think. Where did I put that? We'll have another look at that, but let's just focus on this one and get this one progressing. Get that paint job progressing nicely. And I'll leave this one here to remind us to look at the other B1. Now this, which I've been using on the Lightning, is 360, which is too rough for the final sanding of this these panel lines. That'll be done with worn out 600, I guess. It depends if I put the gloss layer on as a final just to protect it. If I do that, I'm protecting against going through the paint, and I'm much more likely to only get panel lines. If I want a little bit of a worn appearance by slightly going through layers of paint, then don't put the floor wax on first. And I do want a little bit of a worn effect on this one. It's not a fresh look. Okay, that's enough chat about that. Let's go and do some work. Cheers.